It's an absolute profound honor to welcome the power tables that I see sitting in front of me here today. We have 3 Royal Highnesses with us today. So typically when I greet the room and I say, good morning, princesses and queens, today we have 3 Royal Highnesses. I don't know if you can say it like that. 3 royal, let me rather say 3 royalty princesses. Dr. Tebogo Modjadji from Limpopo. Let's give her a round of applause. So Limpopo, anyone else from Limpopo in the house? Wow, right. Her Royal Highness Princess Shepi Motlong of Batlokwa, KZN. I'm from KZN. Her Royal Highness Princess Daisy Sedimendi of Batlokwa, Northwest Province. So I thought we'll get the princesses out of the way. Thank you very much for accepting our invite. Let me get all other formalities out of the way as well in terms of welcome. We wish to have with us Nolita Fakuda, the I have an outside voice, so while technology is coming, I'll exercise that. If I was a guy, I would say they would have called me Mike. Right? We're very fortunate to have with us Nolita Fakadu, Chairman of Anglo American's Management Board, who has served on the Woolworths, has served on many Discovery as well, and has left and left a legacy of excellence in leadership and still continues. And we're actually engaging about her next level, taking it to Dr. Nolita Fakadu with Regenesys, right? We're claiming this for her. Dr. Fileng is on her way. She's the CEO of FP&M CETA. She'll be joining us shortly. Elaine Brass is with us. Welcome, Elaine, the CEO of HW CETA. And our very own princess as well, Dr. Penny Lau, co-founder of Regenesys. Dr. Penny, would you also stand up so everyone acknowledges our co-founder? This is a moment Penny hates. Penny hates that moment, but it would be unjust of me not to also acknowledge our growth and our founder who began this institute over 25 years ago, that we today are proudly hosting International Women's Day. So as women leaders in our organization, we pride ourselves with always innovating, coming up with strategies, programs through our customized programs and Women in Leadership, and making it absolutely relevant because it talks to us and it talks to the people in the room, it talks to our organization, and it talks about the girl and the woman child in each one of us. As we anticipate International Women's Day, we're looking forward to an inspiring, connecting, dynamic conversation. Stop. I think this mic is not going to work. To stop. I just want to see, I know Nishen Monisaka was here as well. I know there were a few gents that were supporting us. Ah, he is. Thanks for raising your hand. I would have missed the other gent. You've just brought attention to the other gent. There's another co-founder, soon to be Dr. William Vivian. And it's good to see the women in the room with men, because we do need the men in the dialogue. If we're ever going to, it's not just about us having the conversation, it is also bringing the boy child and the men closer to the conversation, that the 30 years that we celebrate today in International Women's Day is not in a community of women looking to breaking barriers, but how do we get men to break their own barriers too, to allow women into the spaces that encourage diversity. While we have seen progress and we come together in March to celebrate International Women's Day and in August to celebrate South African Women's Day, there certainly has been progress. But the story is still one of imbalance when we look at the stats. And I always say that numbers never lie. So here's some scary facts to consider. And really these facts are to give you perspective that when we have the conversation today, it should really be about accountability. Not about coming together, to listen to inspirational, motivational speakers and knowing that there are leaders up there that are doing something in the minority. But taking accountability that I'm one of those leaders that is going to step out of Regenesys today and make a difference by transforming myself and those around me. In South Africa, women hold about 40% of professional positions in the private sector and occupy 33% of senior management positions, 39% in the public sector. Encouraging 8% more women are employed in the public sector than men. And this shows some steps towards equity in some areas. However, women remain significantly underrepresented in key industries: mining, transport, logistics, construction. And when I name these sectors, these are the sectors that are driving major economic growth in South Africa. Additionally, many women work in the informal sector, which remains precarious and provides limited opportunities for advancement. We live in an era where the narrative of leadership is sitting in this room to be rewritten, where boardrooms, institutions, and industries are witnessing and will continue to witness an undeniable power of women who dare to challenge the status quo. But we know that leadership is not about who carries the CEO and COO titles and the dean titles and the boardroom listed titles. It's really about impact, transformation, and influence at every level. And these are the emerging leaders that will take up tomorrow's positions. Our distinguished speakers and panelists truly encompass a diverse range of industries, yet they have a common thread: resilience, perseverance, a fighting spirit, an unyielding commitment to breaking barriers. I'm hoping they're going to dip into personal stories today that will leave us inspired and remind us that leadership is about lifting others as we too climb, about making room at our table for those who follow, about opening the boardroom for women to enter. And as we engage in these thought-provoking discussions today, let us remember that the future of leadership is not just about including women. It is about getting the men involved in dialogue. So I'm highly impressed that we have Nishen Munisekar and William Vivian joining us today. The world is changing, and we have to own the architecture of that change. It is my great privilege and pleasure to announce our esteemed keynote speakers today. Our first speaker, Nolita Fukadu, Chairman of Anglo-Americans Management Board in South Africa and President of the International Women's Forum of South Africa. So she has 3 other engagements today. Nolita is one of South Africa's most influential corporate leaders, and she'll delve into the evolving role of women in business leadership. With a distinguished career spanning retail, financial services, mining, oil and gas, she has served on various boards including Sasol, Discovery, Woolworths Holdings, and Discovery Bank. We look forward to your insights, Nolita, and we want to be moved beyond our performative commitments to foster real lasting change. So I'm going to bring you on board on the red carpet. Please give her a resounding welcome as she takes the platform. I encourage the rest of you, while Nolita is making her way up here, I encourage the rest of you to make notes and questions. Write them down, because after both our speakers, we will then host a networking session, and you'll get to interact with them. What we would like to happen at the end of each speaker is to just give you about 5 minutes on your table. There are some beautiful, intelligent, courageous women manning those tables. Manning is the wrong word, right? There's some stereotypical words that are just so, that screams patriarchal, right? Manning the table, hosting the table. Our Regenesys gems are at the table, so they'll introduce yourselves to you, get to know you as well, and we will allow 5 to 7 minutes after our speakers so that you can regroup and have your discussion at your table as well. Over to you, Nolita.
Thank you very much, Miss Inderanik Reddy. Is it Miss or Doctor? I'm getting to you, my sister. She's just put pressure on me by announcing that I may be considering to do something during my retirement period. So I'm going to need a partner for that, and it feels like we are going to be the accountability partners. Thank you very much. I was saying, kuningi lana, there's a lot happening around here, so I need to manage that very well. So let me write, please. No, when you have technology fighting with the old-fashioned paper, you know what's going to happen? The paper is going to win, because for me, that's what I'm more comfortable with. But thank you very much for that introduction, and more importantly, for inviting us to be part of this session. So to the deans of the school, Dr. Penny, who's more than just a dean, but also one of the founders, it's really a great privilege and pleasure to meet you this morning. Dr. Sibongiseni and others that we saw this morning. My sister and friend Karen, who I've known for more than 15, if not 20 years. It's good to see you. And other academics who are here present with us this morning. My fellow panelists, especially Her Royal Highness Dr. Tebogo Mojaji Kekana, whom I've admired from a distance, and it was great to meet you this morning. And I also met my younger sister, Miss Tumi Mualusi, and it's good to have seen you once again, and I'm looking forward to the engagement that we will have this morning. The other Royal Highnesses in the room, may I also acknowledge you as well. And thank you for coming in, and honored guests, good morning and happy International Women's Day. Thank you. So someone once said that when women have a sense of complementing each other instead of competing with each other, then magic happens. And I do hope that this morning will be one of those magical networking and bridge building sessions that further strengthen our voices as women, and it will be a great start to 2025, which promises to be a challenging one on all issues of activism that good people care about. Thank you for inviting us, and I'm saying us wearing the cap of the International Women's Forum of South Africa, which is an organization that I'm privileged to be part of and to be leading at this point in time. And I do know there are some of our members who are here with us this morning as well. And inviting us to be part of this day to talk on the topic of leading change in the boardroom and beyond. A very appropriate and relevant theme, especially for our South African women who continue to be trailblazers and leaders in various sectors and industries, including the public sector and civil society. Proper introductions. My name is Nolita Fagude, a proud beneficiary of Employment Equity Act, Affirmative Action, and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I started working in August of 1990, 35 years ago. 6 months after Nelson Mandela walked out of prison, and 4 years before he became the president of what was referred to then as our new South Africa. So my career journey throughout the 35 years that I have been working in the private sector has been shaped and influenced by that context. Without the enabling regulatory framework of Employment Equity Act, BBBE Act, and Equity Act, as well as the South African Constitution, which came about due to the political will of government, and as well as a private sector that at the time, in the 1990s, was much more committed to transformation than it is today. I believe that my journey would have turned out differently, regardless of how much qualifications and other values I was bringing to the table. Hence my introduction. I want to read the preamble of our Constitution. It's very quick, but as a reminder, it's something that is very close to me, and I had included it in my book as well as a reminder. We, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustices of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who have worked to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it. United in our diversity, we therefore, through our freely elected representatives, adopt this Constitution as the supreme law of the Republic, so as to, 1, heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. 2, lay the foundation for a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of the people and every citizen is equally protected by the law. And 3, improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person. And 4thly, build a united and democratic South Africa able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations. May God protect our people. Nkosi sikelele Africa, Morena Burluka Setjhaba sa rona. God saved Africa. God bless South Africa. Mudzimu fatushetsa Africa. Hosi katekisa Africa. Unquote. How can this be wrong? 31 years later, just this preamble. As a young woman and other women entering the world of business, our role and sole purpose was to ensure that we became the best that we could be in whatever we did, as we were very aware that we were entering spaces that were never intended for us to be part of, except come in as cleaners, tea ladies, or just general laborers. This was the time when your counterparts and peers would proudly tell you that their best friend was their black domestic worker, because that was the only black person they knew that close. I know I digress, but the issues raised recently by the USA, South Africa geopolitical dynamics have opened some wounds in us that we thought we had healed. Remember, 35 years ago, I was only 25 years old, so it still feels like yesterday. Excuse me. I need a tissue from my bag. Do you want water as well? Let me hold this. Apologies for that break. I needed to get myself organized. Having said that, the digression. As my late mother often reminded me, it is not how you got here that matters, but rather what you do once you're inside and have reached your destination. This being one of the many lessons and life lessons that she taught me early on as a 19-year-old university student who had just received a driver's license and wanted to show off by borrowing her brand new car to attend a relative's 21st birthday party. Rather than take our old battered red bakkie, so when I sulked and refused to go to the birthday party because the old car was embarrassingly battered, we all used it to learn how to drive, so obviously you can imagine the condition it was in. She, however, made very insightful remarks that only mothers know how to make. One of these remarks was, "Is there something or someone taking a register at the birthday gate to check who came in what car? Will you be given less food because you came in by a bakkie? So what happens to those who came in by taxis or a bus? And lastly, will they refuse for you to say something or speak to the celebrant just because you did not come in a flashy new car?" It's over the years that I have had a much deeper appreciation of that conversation with her as I moved from different boardrooms of different companies and organizations to realize that my voice and contribution was no less important than that of someone who came from a private school or a suburb rather than a village like I did, even though they may have even come by a private jet. I have taken that lesson to heart to help build my self-confidence when navigating different environments, especially when I knew that I had something to say and value to add. Besides, my seat at the table was already secured and paid for by the struggles of many other Black people who had been in the private sector ahead of me, as well as symbolically by Mandela's walking out of prison after 27 years. We knew how to toy at the time and march outside in the streets in order to get our results, but we did not know how to find the right dance once inside these boardrooms. So how have we navigated this journey? People like myself and my sisters and brothers, but some of my sisters, like Nonkululeko Koboto, Cindy Mabasokoyana, Futi Mtoba, Aaron Shanley, Colin Larson, Gasti Kutse, and many others in the room today, even Dr. Penny for that matter. We all have had to build the bridges in our own way, find our own authentic dancing styles that suited us and our goals without compromising who we are. This is how we found our voices that turned each one of us to be corporate activists inside those boardrooms. I will share some of my processes and tactics, and hopefully this can work for you or will resonate. Remember, in the private sector, then, even now, you did not have a shareholder who had concerns about transformation to the extent that we had in the public sector, where your shareholder was championing the transformation. I believe that is still the case, though, even today, even though at least within the private sector, we use the framework of the ESG, as well as DEI, as a standard of minimum compliance that most companies aspire to. However, what happens now that the USA has struck off the ground anything to do with DEI is of great concern. In fact, what happens now that they are coming for what they refer to as race-based laws in South Africa? One wonders. Regardless, some of the lessons that I have learned and we have learned over the years are, firstly, build your own brand, who you are, what you stand for, especially your values and your principles, because this will shape your life purpose, and you may never know later in life, these become your non-negotiables when you have to make tough decisions. Secondly, knowing your value and your value proposition. Personally, for me, being the firstborn daughter in my own home, traditionally, I am called Mafungwashe, which means the firstborn daughter. And I know most of us who are firstborn daughters, regardless of your culture, you're either Makati or Rahadi or aunt, and you are that aunt and Mafungwashe who gets invited into spaces that normally even your own mother doesn't get invited to. When issues are discussed, you get consulted. You get to be in spaces where women are generally not participating. And playing a role of Mafungwashe gives you a sense of accountability and responsibility, because you know you are the voice of those who are not at the table. So very early on in my career, I knew that any table that I found myself sitting at, because at the time, obviously, there were very few of us, if no one, who looked like you or who even spoke with an accent like yours, when you're sitting at that board table, that it was important to remember that you were bringing the mandate for transformation, for change and activism of those who were not with you. And therefore, that opportunity should not be squandered. And thirdly, being at this table, you need to leverage the policies of the company. In 1990, companies had, like they do still today, the vision and values. And how many of us remember those? And the vision and values nowadays are well, beautifully written on posters and they are on computers. But how many of our leaders in the organizations walk the talk? And a vision and values statement for me in my books is as sacrosanct as the Constitution and the preamble of the country. And therefore, continue to use the vision and values as a mirror to challenge the status quo within the organizations was for me a way of having conversations with the leaders in the organizations right up to the CEO of the organization. Because it was simple. All you needed to say was, I just saw something on the vision and values, and it says we do X, Y, Z, and I'm not seeing us live those values, or am I reading the situation incorrectly? And it's amazing how when you ask the question that way, you get people to be less defensive. Also, we have had tools in the boardroom. Nowadays, the Companies Act gives you the Social Ethics and Transformation Committee, which in my mind is one of the most powerful committees after the Audit Risk Committee, because that is where the mandate of the company through the board is actually protected to make sure that you ask management the right questions around what is the company doing around social ethics and transformation when it comes to what should be done within that organization. Also, external networks are very important, like those provided by sister organizations. I've mentioned the International Women's Forum of South Africa, but there's also Association of Women Chartered Association, APSIP, 30% Club, among others, and regulatory frameworks that I have referred to. And it's important, again, that we arm ourselves as activists and as leaders and women leaders with understanding what is it that we can use to leverage when we get into those environments. Because if you don't, what happens is that you end up thinking that people are doing you a favor by giving you access to opportunities. And this is something that many women tend to confuse. They say, oh, well, you know, and if they're not doing you a favor, you think that you're so special. Meanwhile, it is enshrined in your vision and values in the legislation and many other documents that everyone can access. The other one has been making sure that you create a track record and consistency in your chosen area. Because if you do not, or in your chosen area of competence, because if you do not do this, by being a change activist in an environment, you are calling for the spotlight to be on you. They say you've got a big mouth, and therefore the first thing that they check is your performance. How good is your performance? How good are you in doing what you were originally employed for? And that's why we always say, we as women, we end up feeling like we're working twice, if not 3 times as hard as others. And for me, it has been because I knew that by being an activist, I was attracting attention and wanted to take away that kind of attention from me, where someone cannot have an excuse to say, actually, you are a poor performer. I wanted to excel as a performer so that I can be able to challenge you, knowing that we are on a balanced perspective as we have the conversations. Part of this journey for me was the fact that I first joined an organization called Black Management Forum in 1995 in Cape Town, and I came through the ranks, branch chairperson, became regional and provincial chairperson, and at some point, I later became a national director and became the first woman president of the organization in 2003. It's shocking to think that it was 21 years ago when that happened, because then again, we all were also naive to believe that the organizations will continue to change and transform, and even organizations like BMF would be able to take this transformation journey seriously. And sadly, in our instance, it took another 17 years before we had the next woman president of the organization. And I'm sharing this because it's very easy for us to be put into a false sense of, well, things are going to happen because they've always happened this way. And when you are a corporate activist, you have to be relentless, you have to be resilient, and more importantly, you've got to be intentional. And being intentional is staying close to what you know best, do your job, and secondly, follow through with your passion and the areas of focus. The other one has been making sure that I had access to mentors and coaches and people who would support me throughout the journey. Not having mentors, formally or informally, would have been a career suicide in many ways. Because again, as I was saying to me earlier on, even when we started with, should I say, her other relative, who is her father, those years, we knew that there were men and women in our organizations who were allies. Prajon Mualusi, Lawton Ndlovu, Ruel Koza, Eric Mafuna, and many others who, when they saw you as a young person, they wanted to mentor you and make sure that you became successful. And therefore, I really encourage that you find the allies that are there, work with them, partner with them, and as you can hear, I'm mentioning men who were allies and men who made sure that we succeed. So the issue is really about making sure that we bring in all those who support us in various ways. And the last and interesting part for me, because otherwise I'll talk the whole morning, is that when I got this opportunity to be elected as president of the organization, which is why I was giving you the
to mentor you along the way, and people that don't mentor you by making time for you always, but just role modeling them, and to have that value system with leaders amongst you and not just a plaque on the board. So I'm going to open up now for the different tables to start their discussion led by our Regenesys hostesses. You'll see them because they just radiate this authenticity when they facilitate right now. So we'd like to let you take the lead for about 5 or 7 minutes, and then we're going to have, I'm not going to go table by table, just any table that wants to make relevant contribution. Regenesys, you can get someone from the table nominated other than Regenesys to make those contributions. And then after that, we're going to go and listen to Her Royal Highness, Dr. Tebogo. Too many titles there for me this morning. Over to you now. Let's hear your conversations at your table. each of your table, and there's been such different conversations. And that's what makes women so multifaceted and complex. So I'm going to ask if there's any volunteers that want to give us feedback from their sessions before we move on to Her Highness. I see table at the corner, so let's get everybody to settle down. Let's get to hear some viewpoints. Karabo, the gent here with the mic in his arm, is going to come to you as soon as you raise your hands. Regenesys, feel free to contribute. I know we said that we'll have our guests contributing, but do feel free. So Karabo, the table, the lady with the orange on that side was her first hand up that wanted to contribute. So please tell us your name, the organization that you're representing, and give us your contribution. Okay, so I'm just going to count you down, and we're going to, I know it's such an exciting conversation, and I want to put a little bit of a stopper in it for a while. But rest assured that after we finish our conversations on stage, you can continue. There's no rush for you to go back, right? So I'm just going to count you down, and then we're going to hear from there. 4, 3, 2, shh. Works all the time.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Noeline Zulu, and I represent education.
Can you hold the mic closer, almost like an ice cream cone, so we can hear you? Thank you.
Do I need to go again?
There. Thank you.
So my name is Noeline Zulu, and I represent Education Emporium. The conversation here was so phenomenal, and I did take notes, as I always do. The few things my colleagues said that stood out for me is, first of all, in the boardroom, wanting to do things like men is assuming that they are better than us, and they're right. We can do things our way. Secondly, being yourself eludes you. So when you have 5 pairs of shoes to wear, you can show up every day in the self you feel like. Thirdly, we connect more when we have shared mutual struggle, but we need to transcend that and navigate our way and our space in leadership for gender equity, not equality. That's it.
Thank you very much. Is there another hand going up in the room? Karabo, table number 3.
Good morning, lovely ladies. My name is Nomsa. I'm from my own company, Sasakumbi Business Solution. We, on our table with the lovely ladies, we took for ourselves that we have to be out of the box. Every time when we meet each other, especially women, we can't be judgmental. We don't need to be judgmental. Just be yourself and be out of the box. As well as acknowledge one another, share common value, and have and embrace and love each other as women, as we're gonna learn each other day by day. So this is what we took from ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Raksha, and I'm from FBOP. Please don't be scared. Okay. So yes, the conversation was really enlightening around this table. We spoke a lot about values, bringing our organizational values into our personal life and obviously our professions. And what stood out for me was obviously we spoke about integrity, which is quite important, but also something that sits very close to my heart and is one of the values that we have at FBOB, which is people. And the way I believe, and what I always say to my team back at the office is that you encourage your people to carry you. The roles that we play today in our respective organizations is because of these people, and it's because of these individuals. And I think sitting in these boardrooms and sitting in these corporate meetings and so forth, we need to be thankful to those individuals that has carried us and placed us onto those chairs, where we can then make decisions on their behalf. And I think the most important factor that we can, what stands out for me is that we've got 4 ladies here young ladies that have been brought through to this event to actually be exposed in terms of what do we do? What can I do to one day sit in a corporate chair? And I hope that all of us, we look at you guys and say, one day we were there. Yes, I was sitting there, in the chair, and I always wondered, when am I going to sit in that chair, the decision-making chair, and the day will come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, AVBOB, for supporting Regenesys as well. I think we're going to move on to our next dynamic speaker. I walked around and just listened to the conversations, and they were very different dialogues from how do we show up. And in some of the conversation, it came across, how do we show up against the men in the organization? And I just want you to remember or have this vision in your mind of the yin and yang. When we talk gender parity, when we talk equity, when we talk diversity, we should think about this. It's about the complementary value systems, the complementary strengths, the complementing of each other's weaknesses with the other strengths that this yin and yang comes together with. And when we see it as complementary and not competing, we become more comfortable with the myriad strengths and complexities that women bring into a diverse boardroom, into a diverse team, into diverse mentorship, right? Sometimes and often, the limitations we put on ourselves through what we have lived in a patriarchal society has created a fixed mindset that we are imprisoned ourselves for many decades. So how do these 29% make it up to executive level? And most often when you speak to people like Nolita, to Dr. Teboho, Dr. Penny, other thought leaders in women, you'll realize that it wasn't so much about what was happening to them than what was happening for them and within them. So the same adversities presents at every level in the boardroom, in our homes, our societies, our communities, our nation. And sometimes we have nationalist sentiments or tribal sentiments, and then we become competitive as well. But it's really about what happens within us to be able to face these adversities time and again. And so when we are able to take accountability of what's happening within us, in whatever storm we're in, whatever tsunami we're facing, we're rising ourselves above. And those are the role models that we were aspiring to find, that we become. And so one of those role models that I'm going to introduce you to now, another dynamic princess, queen, Dr. Teboho Kakane, is an exceptional thought leader. She's an entrepreneur, public figure, and she influences across wellness, renewable energy, mining, hospitality, so unrelated industries. And as the founder and president of the Chamber of Business and Tourism, she champions women empowerment in traditionally male-dominated industries as well. So we're looking forward to her powerful insights on how women can break into high-growth industries such as renewable energy, mining, and technology that really moves the dial in our economy. Over to you, Dr. Kakana.
Good morning, everyone, and a very welcome to everyone who is present today. Thank you so much to Johan Beldenburg, the event and MC and CEO of Regenesys, Ms. Indiran Reddy. And also the Regenesys team for having me, including everyone in this house. Can you give a big round of applause to everyone who is here? You're giving yourself a round of applause because you took your precious time to attend this event. My name is Dr. Tebogo Mojaji Kekana, and I'm from the Mojaji royal family, which is, I am the aunt to the current Queen Mojaji, Masalanabo Mojaji, who will be coronated this year. Today I'm going to speak to you about acceleration action, calls for rapid advancement in gender equality. This is a very fantastic initiative to bring together and empower women leaders. It's inspiring to see women sharing their experiences and supporting one another in the leadership journey. Women play a vital role in leadership positions, bringing unique perspectives, skills, and strengths to the table. And the research has proved that women are still being oppressed in many ways. However, despite the progress, women still face significant barriers of leadership, including biases and stereotypes and unequal access to opportunities. We can no longer afford the inch forward to of pointers as to why we need to accelerate the action. Agency of issues, the data speaks for itself. At the current rate of progress through gender parity will remain a distant dream generations away. Economic impact, empowering women is not just a moral imperative, it is an economic necessity, unlocking innovation and driving global prosperity. Social justice, every woman, regardless of their backgrounds, deserve equal access to opportunities in education, health, leadership, and political participation. I was one of the very fortunate people to have received both, from education to working in male-dominated spaces like mining, oil, renewable energy, farming, and more. I also completed my matric at the age of livable, but I did. And back then, it was very taboo for anyone to complete subjects. My mom actually said, I'm gonna fail, but believe you me, I passed. Then I went to study, I did law, which I didn't complete because it wasn't the subject that I chose. It was something that my dad made me do. I changed from law to marketing behind his back. When I passed my marketing, I said to my dad, I passed, and he couldn't believe because he thought I was doing law for so many years. I invited him to the graduation ceremony, only to find that her daughter was called to graduate for BA in marketing. He was very surprised and excited at the very same time. Fortunately, I didn't get punished because I passed it with cum laude. So it was an A plus for me. I wasn't punished because I passed it very, very well. Areas for, I'm gonna move again to all the pointers that I think are necessary for developing our country. Workplace equity. We need to implement policies promoting equal pay, which made me resign from a very big corporate because of my salary was not benchmarked accordingly, and I found it very unfair. That's when I resigned and focused to developing myself. I then went and registered for my honors. I did my master's while I was away. I did my first PhD, and unfortunately, Mojaji Kekana, Chamber of Business and Tourism. That's my company. Pledged to employ 80% of women in our space, spread as follows: 40 will be executives, 20% will be admin, and the other 20% will be junior positions before the end of this year. I'm also happy to announce the growth that the chamber has been doing since the inception of it. We have successfully registered the chamber with Dubai, the EU, but in Dubai. And we also have an office there. We were thinking of also opening another office in the US. However, due to the conflictions between us and the US, we decided to pause a bit and see what will happen. The brief of the chamber, I'm going to refer to me as a she, because this is the message to you. It's not something that I need to take all the credit for. Despite significant strides, women entrepreneurs continue to face funding disparities, limited access to networks, and structural biases in the business world. The Dr. Tebogo Mojaji Kekana will share powerful insights on how women can break into high growth industries such as renewable energy, mining technology, traditionally dominated by men. She will also discuss the strategies for fostering inclusive economic participation, leveraging mentorship, and advocating for policy reforms that accelerate gender parity in entrepreneurship and business leadership. Yesterday, I got a call from one of the mentees that I've been mentoring for the past 6 months. The lady has been struggling with accessing funding. I guided her where to go. Yesterday, she gave me a call. She said to me, "Ma'am, please check your email." Reading that email, I almost fell off my chair. She's been doing drastical changes with her business, from a negative 5,000 to a positive 1,600,000 within the 6 months. This is how I want to contribute to our economic growth and create jobs. Women entrepreneurs create jobs and increase positivity, which can lead to higher gross national product and per capita income. Increased competition, women entrepreneurs can challenge existing firms to become more competitive. Introduce new products and services. I've launched a cologne brand last year, November, and the cologne brand is doing wonderful work. I employed more than 200 people within this space, and I'm hoping some of you will be part of it as well. Introduce new projects and services. Women entrepreneurs can introduce new products, which is true. Think outside the box. There are so many things that you can sell, and don't be afraid of selling. Here I am, I'm still selling things. I'm selling water bottles that are manufactured from my factory. I sell colognes, I sell blankets. And I'm not doing all these for myself. I'm doing all this for my legacy. My children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren. But my children knows that whatever me and my husband are working for now, they are not theirs until we are no longer in this earth. They mustn't feel entitled. Women entrepreneurs can bring unique perspectives to industries and markets that have traditionally been dominated by men. I saw it. And you see the ad. Take your phone and call the number. Ask to speak to whoever is in charge of that advertising. Speak to them. Tell them what you can offer. Today we are very fortunate. We have Google. We have AI. That you can ask it for any information. It will give it to you for free. Unlike coming to me for mentorship, I charge. Create new solutions. Women entrepreneurs can challenge conventional thinking and create new solutions to the problems. How women contribute to poverty alleviation. Generate income. Women entrepreneurs can generate income, isn't it? Isn't it? Yes. We can create food from nothing. We can create designer clothing from just the cloth that we find in our houses. Why women entrepreneurs are important? Women's equal participation in the economy is essential for a country's progress. In closing, together, let's move beyond incremental change and embrace a bold vision of a world where gender equality is not just a goal, but a lived reality. By accelerating action, we can create a future where every woman and girl can thrive, contributing their unique talents and perspectives to build a more just and equitable societal for all. I thank you for being here today. And thank you so much, Ms. Randy.
That Dr. Tebogo spoke about entrepreneurship. If we want to see the economy move, it's not just about doing jobs and being employed, but by creating opportunities. And I'm hoping that we're celebrating, let me see from a show of hands, business owners in the room. Wow, wow, round of applause for you. You are changing our economy, like Dr. Tebogo. I love that you spoke about legacy. Why are you doing this, right? And for your children, so that they have a legacy to look up to, for generations of sustainability. I loved when you spoke about really legacy talks to the Regenesys values, and I'm going to do a little bit of a diversion to Regenesys, and it was taken from your tree, so thank you for that branch. When we talk legacy, we're really talking personal mastery. We're talking about a program that's close to Regenesys' heart. There's my champion of personal mastery, Lisa Schaefer, sitting right in the back, supported by Melissa Lai, supported by our academic Chief Operating Officer, Liz Moore, on this side as well. And when we talk personal mastery, it's really about weaving into our transformation. Here we say curriculum, right, because they're students. But let's leave the curriculum aside. Personal mastery is really something we hone in, whether we're studying a curriculum or whether we are studying life. And so it talks about emotional quotient. How do I master myself before I can lead and others? Because if I can't manage myself, and I love the word emotion, isn't it a stereotypical word that men use around us when we're in the boardroom? Oh, she's so emotional. She's having a day, right? And I think, like, who amongst us doesn't have an emotion? Do people get happy people? It's an emotion, huh? Do people get angry? Emotion. Do you feel joyous? Emotion. Frustrated? Is it an emotion? I want to see a man who can't display that. They probably amplify it more than us, right? So we're all a bunch of emotions. And at Regenesys, through personal mastery, we're really talking about how to leverage these emotions. Anger is important. Suppressed anger will lead to resentment, bitterness, and actually create lots of toxicity into you. But in emotional quotient is, how do we direct the anger? How do we deal with it? How do we unpack it? And that's important when we lead people. So we go from emotional quotient to spiritual quotient. And that's exactly what Dr. Tebogo was talking about, leaving a legacy. And it's not about being the doctor, the princess, the COO, the head of academics, the dean, the owner. It's not about that. It's about who am I minus all of this. Take out all the 5 pairs of shoes, right? Barefoot and me. Who am I and how am I contributing? So at Regenesys, we don't talk religion when we talk spiritual quotient. We're really talking about who am I and what are my gifts? What are my talents? What is my uniqueness in the 7 billion people that I've descended to do something great? I love the saying by Mother Teresa, and she says, not all of us can do great things, but all of us can do small things with great acts of love. And I think that is something that women bring in naturally. Naturally, we bring love, nurturing, collaboration. And we've moved into an age exiting competitiveness into collaboration. And these are natural attributes that women hone within them. They harness it naturally. Women are creators of the universe. Birthing. You've got to nurture that little one, right? You've got to have patience after feeding, whether it's on the breast or in the bottle, at 3 a.m. and have patience. You've got to persevere. These are natural attributes that come, that we need to see into the boardroom and really taps into spiritual quotient. IQ. Before the child goes to school, who teaches him to speak, to engage, to count, to read, to write the name, to know the address, to memorize the phone number when you get lost? Who does that? Mothers. IQ, awakening potential, happens from the time that baby is in the womb. Right? You don't need to have a child to do this, right? There's many women that are playing these roles in their society already. So we've covered EQ, IQ, SQ, physical quotient. You can't have a legacy and leave a legacy and live spiritually and emotionally connected, leading others, if the next pandemic, and we've witnessed a pandemic in our lifetime, comes out and just wipes us out. Forget the pandemic, right? How unhealthy eating, diabetes is quite rife in South Africa. Cardio issues quite rife in South Africa. So as South Africans, we should be concerned about health issues around heart attacks and diabetes. So your physical well-being, we should become examples of this. And then financial, I remember the table behind us. I can't see your number. Number three. Had Rolene from My Wealth Investments. So in Personal Mastery, they support Lisa with rolling out financial quotient. And that's the basis of all entrepreneurship or as a worker or as a householder, how to manage your finances. But what did they do differently? What do we do differently? It's teaching you how to make money multiply itself instead of just going out to expenses. And those are the cues that we talk about that lead into leaving a legacy. So thank you again, Dr. Tebogo. I'm sad that we didn't get to say another goodbye to Nolita, but she had a function to attend. In her absence, let's give her a round of applause. She was outstanding as well. Right. Ladies, we're not going to feed back into the session, but from everything that we've spoken about, I'd like you now to have your next discussion points at your table, whether it be the personal mastery, whether it be legacy, whether it be entrepreneurship, whether we still continue the conversations about breaking barriers. But I'm going to add a to-do list. I like giving out tasks, right? So table hostesses, the to-do list is that each person makes their 3 commitments to themselves before exiting our building today. And then we'll check in on you in 6 weeks and 10 minutes and 3 seconds, right? I'm kidding, right? you're going to have to be accountable on this. See, if you joined our personal mastery program, we do have coaches that will check in on you. So that's another advantage of joining Regenesys. But really, it is about promoting Regenesys. I almost said it's not. It really is. I can't help it. I think when we love something and we feel passionate about something, we can't stop talking about it. And that's just me, right? I really love the fact that we have a very simple vision. Too simplistic, making the world a better place. And the women that have gathered here today are here because you chose to be part of the conversation, breaking the barriers for gender equality. So you chose to make the world a better place for other women, or you wouldn't be here today. So I look forward to your conversations in your table about how you are committed to making the world of women and yourself a better place in becoming your best version. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to our VIP guests. We're really, really honored to have you here. And let's take the conversations into action, ladies. Thank you. Please give yourself the loudest applause. There's no need to rush out. Our table hostesses are looking forward to converse with you. Nishen and Karan and their team are also looking forward to connecting with you and exchanging business cards. Thank you very much, and happy International Women's Day.